We will call this meeting of the City Council to order. So if you could please find a seat. We'll start with a roll call, please.
Mayor Weiss.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Feller.
Here.
Councilmember Kime.
Here.
Councilmember Rodriguez.
Here.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Here.
And if you would stand with me to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, if I could have Pat and Paul come down for their recognition. You can both go the same way. So on behalf of the entire City Council, we want to thank you for your years, actually 22 years of service to the Oceanside Harbor and in publishing the cruise news and in all the other things you have done for the city and the schools and everything that you've done for us. We appreciate you, and we want to grant you this certificate of recognition. I'm not going to read the whole thing. If you want to say a few words, since you're in the journalism bit. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. You buy your ink by the barrel, right?
It's a small publication, and we do the best we can.
Our target audience are the boaters of Oceanside Harbor, and we feel that we're really privileged to be slip holders and former liveaboards in Oceanside Harbor because it's like a neighborhood, and people know each other, and you walk around, and somebody's always saying hello and stuff like that. I see a few other boaters nodding, so it is a privilege.
So when you're in the harbor, pick up a copy of the Cruise News. It's free, and congratulations. So at this time, we would have an update and a presentation by the San Diego County Water Authority on their 75th anniversary.
Hi. Thank you so much for making my Okay. Perfect. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you giving me a few minutes on your agenda today for the opportunity to present you with our 75th anniversary commemorative coin. On one side, you'll see all of our member agencies that we have on the coin, and we produced this coin. It is the 75th anniversary of building the building the pipe that brought imported water to San Diego County. And so we're going around to all of our member agencies, thanking them for their support over these 75 years. We also produced a brochure that has a timeline of the milestones of water delivery in San Diego County. And so for the past number of years, we've been really focused on building facilities, building infrastructure, and one of the messages I'm here to deliver is that we're really looking at building stronger relationships with our member agencies. So we understand that there's a lot of concerns. The price of water is rising. We just did our public opinion poll, which the board will hear tomorrow, in that people have concerns and want to know that a safe and reliable water supply is going to continue in the future. They're concerned about climate change. They're concerned about other things that might impact that. They also know that it's really important here in San Diego County, where we have very few natural water resources, that our economy and our quality of life, that we have that safe and reliable water supply to support that. So again, I want to thank you. I want you to know that the San Diego County Water Authority is here for you. We really appreciate your staff, Carrie Dale and her staff that are very active at the Water Authority, supporting us through our communications efforts, through our finance efforts, and through a number of other committees and things, and then your appointment to our board, Brian Boyle. So again, thank you, and we don't want to be a stranger. We want to recognize that you're one of our member agencies and that you're very important to us. So thank you again.
Thank you. And at this time, we'll have Dr. Sunny Cook to give us an update on Mira Costa.
Hi, good evening. Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here. I try to come once a year, and that means I'm finishing my 5th year at Mira Costa College, and so certainly some faces that I've known for all that time. And
Congratulations.
thank you, and congratulations to our newest council members. I appreciate your willingness to meet me earlier. I also have with me 3 elected officials that are longtime Oceanside residents and are the publicly elected officials that are the Board of Trustees of our 7-member trustee board. And that is Dr. David Broad, who is the chair of the board behind me, and then George McNeil and Bill Fisher, who all represent the Oceanside area. So I'm sorry if I'm blocking their view, but they're lovely. I am going to ask you, if you would, to just open your little folders, because I'll address the things that are on the left side of your folder, and I will be brief. I wanted you to see a press release that it looks like this, and it is the press release about Mira Costa Promise, which you've heard us talk about for a number of years. It should be on the left side of your folder. And we are so proud that we've expanded this program over the last couple of years, really to ensure that anyone in our community that seeks a higher education is able to go to Mira Costa and have an entire 2 years of college education for free, if they choose to be a full-time student and they're coming to college for the first time. So we certainly want to make sure that everyone in our community is aware of that. That includes any California resident and also any DREAM Act California student who is in our community that would like to pursue an education. We also, through our foundation, raise private funds to enhance the financial support for those students in the most need. So textbook support, also where we can, transportation and child care support as well, because we really want to make sure that anyone in our community that seeks a higher education is able to do that. The finances are not a problem. We also have a commitment to affordable, high-quality education that's tied to the regional economy. And so I would draw your attention to this flyer that's in your folder, and it really talks about our career education programs. And Mira Costa's specific niche is in that middle skills job arena, where 2/3 of our jobs of the future are going to require some college. So a certificate, a 2-year degree, short of a bachelor's degree. And we want to create meaningful ladders, career ladders that will allow students to get an education, get that first job, and if their life circumstances warrant, they can get that first job and then always come back for future education. So if you continue, you'll see the middle skills jobs that we train for, everything from architectural, engineering, design, automotive, child development, business, biotechnology, healthcare of all sorts, so nursing, medical assisting, medical office, coding, all of that kind of stuff. So you'll see all those symbols in the middle of that page, and 80% of our graduates are, within that first year of graduation, they're employed in that field. Now, if you go all the way to the bottom of that page, you'll see bachelor's degrees are highlighted. So you've been a big part of supporting Mira Costa in offering our first biomanufacturing bachelor's degree. We were selected as one of only 15 California community colleges to be able to offer a relevant, industry-needed degree, and we had a strong focus on biotechnology. This degree is a 4-year bachelor's degree that combines science and manufacturing or production, and then quality compliance, so the FDA compliance regulations. So companies like Genentech here in Oceanside were crucial in helping us to develop and support that program. And so all 4 years of that bachelor's program can be completed under $10,000. And we're very, again, affordable, high-quality education that's needed in our community. So let me then draw your attention to just a couple of more things, and then I'll end with some invitations. Yeah, did you hear that? $10,000, John. Under $10,000 for a whole bachelor's
That's
degree.
amazing.
He's got kids at higher end institutions. I also want to say thank you to our entire community for supporting. In 2016, we put a ballot measure on the ballot. The voters endorsed that, and we are well on our way to construction. So it was a $455 million facilities bond. We were able to obtain the highest rating by Moody's and Standard & Poor's, so that we have a AAA rating in both, which really made the return costs as low as possible for our residents. So at the Oceanside campus, you will see 4 new buildings, including a student services building, allied health and biotechnology, nursing, and also gymnasium, and those will all be completed in phase 1. The San Alejo campus and the Community Learning Center will also receive a new student services building, and all the classrooms will be modernized. So that's a build out of about 8 years or so. We're well on our way. Things are going well. And the board has a commitment to keeping as much of the contracts local as possible, so that the money from our community is actually spent within our community. So we're monitoring those metrics very carefully. You are aware of the Gear Up grant that MiraCosta and Oceanside Unified have had for at least 7 years now. It has allowed us to create a college-going culture in the Oceanside Unified School District. We want students to be successful in high school, to graduate, and then come to college, whether that be MiraCosta or any university. So we're delighted that last year we were renewed for another 7 years of this federal grant. We received $11 million to continue that work with Oceanside School. So we're now reaching into middle schools and working to build that pipeline of students through middle school, high school, and then on to college. And so now my invitations to you, I would love for you to look at this Latino Book and Family Festival event that will be held at MiraCosta College. It's an annual event this Saturday. If you are welcome to attend, it's open to the community. It's really to celebrate reading, books, family, authors, and literacy. And that is open from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. all day Saturday. And last but not least, I hope that you will be my guest at the Community Leaders Breakfast. So you have that invitation for October 22nd. We would be happy to have you as our guests, and that breakfast starts at 7:30 in the morning. It's at the usual spot, so it's the Carlsbad Sheraton, but it's going by a new name. I think it's a Westin now. But all that information is here. Please let us know if you're interested. And I am delighted and very thankful for your support, and I would be happy to answer any questions that you might have that I haven't covered.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Or just sit down.
Well, actually, congratulations on 5 years.
Thank you.
And I've been really excited about MiraCosta being picked for many reasons as moving forward a lot of really good educational goals, like, for example, being able to have a 4-year program and be able to receive, for students to be able to get a BA. So I'm very, very excited about that. I hope that we continue to look at what other areas we could do a 4-year type college, so that, some of us won't be contributing towards like a $100,000 education.
Student loan debt.
John. But anyway.
He's trying to ignore us, Esther.
Yes. But no, this is so important to us. We are not building more colleges. We have to find other ways of ensuring that our youth are able to get their education. As to the Latino Book and Family Festival, congratulations again to have it. And I understand that Edward James Olmos is going to be there at 3 o'clock.
Yes, he
so,
is.
along
Yes.
with 2 other really phenomenal authors. So congratulations on that. Again, 3 o'clock. Edward James Olmos, who had a lot to do with starting this event. This is the what number?
This has got to be 4 at Maricosta, but it's been going on for
Yes,
a long
and I'm trying to remember
time.
the total number. It's like in
Yeah.
the hundreds, right?
Yeah.
Up and down the Southern California, Los Angeles, San Diego, yeah. And now the home being Maricosta, a fantastic place for it to be.
Yes. Thank you. And I do want to just add that we do have bachelor's programs through another university partnership. You'll see those on the bottom of that page. So child development, computer science, business administration, computer science. All, did I say that already? They're all listed on the bottom of that
Maybe
page.
teaching would be a nice one?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something that we want to do is wherever there's a capacity issue in the public universities, we want to look at that. That business program, as I was mentioning, we've tripled the number of students that are coming into that partnership for a bachelor's. So you can earn a bachelor's, and we're now working on a master's degree in North County, so a master's in MBA program. So really making sure that the students have a full career ladder where there is need and that is unmet.
That's fantastic. And again,
you.
under $10,000, John,
And I just want
for all our
to,
families, yeah.
and I just want to thank you and Maricosta for tailoring your programs to fit our business needs, and not just for the city of Oceanside, but for the entire Innovate 78 corridor groups. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
There was no closed session, so there's no closed session report, Mr. Mullen. So we'll go to our consent calendar. Do we have any?
Has pulled item number 6 and item number 10.
Thank you.
Move approval for balance.
6 and 10. I'll second that. We have a motion and a second for the balance. Please vote.
Approved, 5-0.
We'll go to item 6. Do we have a speaker?
Our first and only speaker for item number 6 is Arlene Hammerschmidt.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. Arlene Hammerschmidt on Ivy Road in Fire Mountain, rural-ish Fire Mountain. A week ago, when we were all in this room, you heard a very upset speaker use the phrase, selling us out. This sale of publicly held land is potentially an example. This is what was in the staff report. This is where we're talking about. It's an out-of-date map, for one thing. Thank you for the close-up. That's a very blown-up area. These are new homes that are not on here. This is the area that we're talking about that's all in green. You can see that this has been and is being used as public open space. You see trails. No, I can do this. Thank you. So you can see trails. You can see that it's green. The plan, as I read, is for 43 homes to be put in here. And in my personal opinion, and you know that I'm a retired physical educator, it's all about living and being physically healthy and teaching our youth that habit, and many of you have adapted that as part of your lifestyle. My questions are, how does this further the city's goals of public health if we're going to turn this into housing? It could be a park. It could still be a park. I see the provisions within the staff report for use of recycled water for non-potable requirements. How does this align with the general plan and the climate and economic elements? Does this help meet our revised RHNA numbers? This is housing. How do those fit in there? I didn't see any mention of that. How does this help us meet our workforce and low and moderate income expectation? Where's the park? Oceanside is low on available park space. All of us should be able to walk to a park in 10 minutes. When you look at that overhead, You don't see much green. There's not open space. There's a lot of houses there. And no, schools don't count as open space because, frankly, mostly they're locked up. So instead of selling this potential park space for housing, let's do what's better for the quality of life for Oceanside. Quality of life. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Is that it? Councilmember Sanchez?
Thank you. And the title of this item is Approval of a Purchase and Sale Agreement with Concordia Communities, LLC, for city-owned land on Paula Road near Los Arbolitos Boulevard. What this is, it's a 7.38 acre lot. This is a lot that the city has been approached about for potential more housing. This particular community has had so much development over time. There's only one way in, one way out here on Paula Road. There have been development. There are two schools, and the current use of this lot over time has been by public as a park, as a very passive park, a very minimal maintenance by the city. I believe it gets mowed once a year so that it doesn't become habitat. But basically, the community has been using this parcel as a park and have been talking to the city over time about flipping two parcels. There's another parcel, the diagram didn't show it very well, but there's yet another parcel that the community has wanted the city to flip them so that this would be a passive park or maybe even one day a full out community park, and development could somehow take place on the other parcel. The city has not done that. We've been short by, I believe, one vote in the past to make that, request actually happen. There is no open space in this community. This community definitely deserves to have open space. I'm going to be voting no. That these are one-time funds that will be generated. Yes, we don't have a plan before us, so we don't know what the housing will look like. But the purchase price is $986,000. This parcel was actually acquired as part of the flood control project, so it was a remnant of that. And so we've held on for it for years. There's public lands don't lose their value. There can always be something that we can do with it. At this time, I think it's very critical that we maintain this for the community. So I am going to be voting against this item. Thank you.
Mr. Edow, based on the staff report, this property is zoned residential?
Honorable Mayor, Douglas Edow, Real Estate Manager. Yes, it's currently zoned residential.
And the property Councilmember Sanchez mentioned to the north of it is zoned open space and will remain open space and available for open space uses?
At this time, yes, sir.
Okay. So as it sits right now, that property does not generate any property taxes?
It does not, correct.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Feller?
Thank you. Fireside Park's less than 10 minutes from this project, and not Nichols, but Fusad Elementary is pretty close on the other end of it. So you can't tell me that we don't use schools as parks in this city. I've watched thousands of games and activities on school grounds as park uses. Was also supposed to be the continuation of Palo Road over to the backside of the drive-in at one time. I definitely think we should take advantage of this offer, and I believe Doug is satisfied with the dollar amount for sure. So, so I move approval.
Councilmember Keim?
want to second what Councilman Feller said about Fireside Park, which is heavily utilized, being very close. I don't know the exact distance, but it's in that neighborhood. The community uses it on a regular basis, and I do believe that's important. Also, housing is important. This is properly zoned and in a good location for it.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
I wanted to add one thing. This is, if it's built as 44 homes, it's 40 homes. It's up to our, it adds to the numbers that we're required to have for arena. So I think.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
It's not affordable.
Doesn't have.
Motion approved, 4-1. Sanchez, no.
We'll go to item 10. We have speakers on that, Mr.
Our
Clerk?
first speaker is Nick Ritchie, to be followed by Oceanside Bridge Housing,
Is it just two?
and Tim, is it Geary? I apologize if I'm mispronouncing your name.
Good evening, Council. Nick Ritchie. I live at 133 Sherry Lane. October 18th, homeless emergency declared by the City Council. November, Measure X passes. Then, Citizens Oversight Committee created a Homeless Ad Hoc Committee formed. Homeless Ad Hoc Committee was supposed to meet 5 times and then present their recommendations to the Council in August. Here we are, September 25th. What happened to the pledge the Council made to listen to the Homeless Ad Hoc Committee? It met twice, but never again. You never got any recommendations from this committee. But yet in the budget workshop, all of a sudden we see a homeless strategy being allocated resources. The citizens don't have a clue. I hope that that was just an oversight on your part. And of course, you can rectify that tonight. This item, this strategy embraces the Housing First policy, where active drug addicts and alcoholics will be housed with the altruistic hope that they will engage the services offered to work their way out of homelessness. This is all voluntary, no commitment by the individual to their own wellness is expected. They can stay in bridge housing for up to 120 days actively using. There exists no overwhelming amounts of data that confirm that Housing First policy is a success anywhere in the United States. If data does exist, it only confirms that an individual got housed, not well. Nothing that indicates that the individual worked the program and they climbed out of homelessness. In fact, the only obvious outcome to this policy is housing. Don't these folks deserve more than just housing? Why, of course. Now, when the council declared an emergency, the city qualified for HEAP money. Why aren't we using that money for bridge housing? Why are we using Measure X money? Why can't we preserve Measure X money? Once again, of course, I'm sure you've been notified by staff that within the last month, Assemblywoman Tasha Horvath recently secured $1 million to be divided between 4 North County cities, Encinitas, Carlsbad, Vista, and Oceanside, for homeless prevention and diversion. Oceanside gets $250,000 that could be applied to this if you choose to go forward with it. I urge you to table this, especially in lieu of the new funding source. Thank you very much.
Greg Anglia, to be followed by Tim Yazagiri. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, honorable council members. My name is Greg Angel. I'm the CEO of Interfaith Community Services. I'm here tonight to share a few words about the proposal for bridge housing, and I'm also available for any questions you may have. The City of Oceanside is a leader in North County among addressing homelessness and helping people overcome homelessness. The funds referenced will also provide, by the recent speaker, will also provide additional support to prevent homelessness. But before those funds were secured, the city launched years ago, in 2015, the Opening Doors Initiative, with my organization, Interfaith Community Services, as one of your many partners supporting your work. You've helped 37 formerly chronically homeless individuals get off the streets of our Oceanside city and into housing of their own. Of those 37, 35 are still stably, successfully housed, a 95% rate of success. 9 individuals no longer require any level of supportive services. Indeed, forward progress is being made. The 12 beds that will be provided as bridge housing through this proposal, as recommended by staff, come from housing units that Interfaith Community Services has operated in this community for more than 10 years. Most of the units are dedicated to veterans, men and women who have served our country. The VA has reduced the funding for these veteran programs, and we have a unique opportunity. 3 two-bedroom apartments that have helped people overcome homelessness for many years are now vacant and available for a different purpose. With your support this evening, we can help 12 men and women move off the streets of our Oceanside community into those bridge housing transitional homes. The transition from street homelessness to housed can be a difficult one, as you might imagine. To be able to learn the life skills, to be able to get into the daily routines is impactful. One of the 37 individuals that you have provided housing for was brutally attacked while on the streets of Oceanside. That happened after she was linked and provided with the housing voucher because she was still street homeless while she tried to find housing. Your opportunity to create bridge housing in existing vacant housing units will match people like her who have a housing resource, who are interested in getting off the streets to a safe place. There are 2 individuals with vouchers right now who will street homeless and will sleep on the streets tonight. There are 5 we are searching for to find. All 7 could be housed as soon as next week under this program set to begin October 1. I could say a lot more. I want to thank you for your vision, for your wisdom, for your partnership, and I will be here to answer questions now and throughout the evening. Thank you.
Tim Uzagiri, to be followed by Mike Castoro.
Honorable Mayor, City Council members, my name is Tim Izagiri, Executive Director of Bread of Life Rescue Mission. I live at 4369 Dulwich Way, Oceanside. I wanted to clear something up first. My view on housing first, I think there's been some confusion on it. Bread of Life doesn't oppose housing first. We oppose someone forcing it on us. So I work with Greg and his team, and we collaborate, and we partner in many ways. So I support what they do. I'm thankful that there's places out there who have elected to go down that path. It's just not a program that works well with our church-based type program. We have women and children who are volunteering and serving there, so drug testing is very important to us. But I'm not opposed to the program, I just can't run it at the Bread of Life. So I wanted to make that clear. As far as Greg's proposal and Interfaith's proposal, I am in agreement with them in that last year we ran into several cases, one in particular who had been waiting 9 years for her voucher. When she got her voucher, she then found out she had credit issues. So it took us 2 to 3 months to get her prepared to get into housing once she had her voucher. So what they're proposing, I think, will be a nice piece to the puzzle. This is a big problem. It takes a lot of us. You know, one of the things that I've learned in the year and a half that I've been involved at the Bread full-time, biblically, Scripture tells us that some of us are hands and some of us are feet. You know, I think all of us just have to learn what our role is and be really good at it. I don't want to be a foot. Greg's chosen that path, and I'm thankful to be partners with him. So I want to support what you guys are proposing tonight. So thank you for your time.
Mike Castoro.
Good evening. I'm a member of North Coast United Methodist Church, and I'm representing them here tonight. For the last 9 years, we have supported ISN with a shelter that we do 2-week periods during the wintertime. Our first rotation this year will be in October through the first week in November, and then we will do it again in February. And we provide food and shelter, counseling, and whatever we can do to help. And it's all volunteers from the North Coast United Methodist Church over on Kelly Street. We strongly encourage these type of programs, and we ask that everybody support this type of work that's being done in our community to eliminate a problem that we all know is here. Thank you very much.
No more speakers.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Thank you. The title of this item is Approval of a Professional Services Agreement with Interfaith Community Services for Bridge Housing and Case Management in the amount of, and it's an agreement, it's a contract for PSA in the amount of $237,974. Again, it's with Interfaith Community Services. Thank you, Greg, for being here. Greg Angel for being here, who's the executive director. To provide 12 bridge housing beds for homeless individuals needing temporary shelter and housing navigation assistance to permanent housing, and authorize the city manager to execute the agreement. The actual physical property was something that the council approved. Oh, there you are. That's it. 10 years ago, I thought it was like 12 years, 10 years ago, in the Crown Heights community, and it has been a very good program. At the time, we had a lot of questions. I remember I asked a lot of questions, and I got a really good feeling about it. I ended up supporting it, and yes, this is an opportunity. Mr. Angel, I did go to one of your presentations about one of the things that Interfaith does, and that is to try to make it so that people who are housed and are sometimes they're on the line, that they not lose their housing, and that it's so difficult for people to become homeless again. And so you have a program specifically to try to, provide some subsidies in special cases. But what you said really rings true, is that when you need the housing, you need to have it as quickly as possible. I do know of people who are living in their cars waiting for housing, and we can't wait. This 12 beds is absolutely necessary at this time. I want to respond to one of the questions that was said about the HEAP funds. And Marjorie, I will ask you to respond to the other questions that were posed. HEAP funds cannot apply to this project. We learned that very early. There was a presentation here about the HEAP funds that we received as part of the county HEAP funds, as well as what the extra money that we received through our assembly member. So HEAP funds cannot go to this project. And Marjorie, can you please respond to the other questions that were posed at the beginning?
Sure. Thank you, Councilmember Sanchez, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Marjorie Pierce, Housing and Neighborhood Services Director. The HEAP funds were prescribed what we could apply for, and we applied for what we thought was the maximum that we could get, and we have a contract to implement those programs. As far as the money that the Assemblywoman secured, that money is coming through the city, but it clearly is a contract that is a pass-through with the Community Resource Center, which is a nonprofit agency that has been running a program in Encinitas. They do work in North County coastal area, and I think that the Assemblywoman chose the CRC because of her familiarity with that organization, having come from Encinitas herself. And it has not been made clear exactly defined when. The money hasn't arrived yet, and the executive director will be talking to us about what they intend to do with the money, but I think it will clearly be an extension of programs that they already have in place. I know that Mr. Ritchie said that these people could stay up to 120 days, and maybe I wasn't clear in my correspondence with him. So what happens is the people that will be residing in these 12 beds will be people that the HOT team and the Housing Authority are working together to get people housed. But we find it difficult, especially with this population, getting all their documentation together, being able to hold it together, being able to be presentable to when they go out to look for housing, having housing navigation services, and while they're there, also being referred to other resources that they may need. Example, last week we attempted to give 4 homeless people vouchers. The HOT team was unable to locate one of those people. We've put in a lot of time, effort, and quite frankly, money into getting that person to the point where they're ready to be issued a voucher. And unless that person actually leases up, the housing authority doesn't recuperate their money for administering the program. After so many days, by HUD's regulations, if we don't find that person and get them back in to get their voucher, then all of the paperwork expires and we are back to starting point one. So that's totally inefficient. The HOT team is supportive of this program because it makes their job easier in helping get these people to appointments and to get all of the documentation. So this is not a drop-in shelter by any means. These are people that have been deemed appropriate by the Oceanside Police Department and the Housing Authority to actually receive a voucher because they have been determined to be very vulnerable on the street. We have not, in talking with my staff, assisted one active drug-addicted person in housing since we started implementing this program a couple of years ago.
Thank you. I'm going to move approval. Thank you.
Councilmember Rodriguez.
Thank you, Marjorie, for that, and Interfaith for coming out and explaining. I was actually a homeless youth. I was homeless for about 6 months when I was younger, so I have that experience and understanding the uncertainties and the complexities involved. I have also had the experience of touring both the Grant and Division Street. A couple of Marine friends of mine that got out, went in the wrong direction. They actually went under the VA program and were staying at this facility temporarily back in like 2011, 2012. So with that being said, I had an in-depth conversation with the HOT team. Marjorie's right, they are going to be pre-screening these individuals in order to get the voucher. So, you know, everything from criminal background all the way through to substance abuse, that's all worked out before issuing of the voucher. What I was told is that they have to be homeless in Oceanside for at least a year to be a part of this bridge program, which in my mind, I think that's important and essential that they are Oceanside residents, and we really prioritize helping Oceanside residents with these funds. And we need beds. I get that dynamic. We do need the beds. We need a roof over their head. We need to be able to keep accountable of individuals to get them in line to move forward with permanent housing. My concern lies with two items. One, the cost breakdown and the terms of the agreement. I think the terms of the agreement need to be, there needs to be a lot more detail on the expectations and what does success look like for this program to really be able to translate, okay, how many do we help? Are we going to continue this? I don't want to come back in 12 months and be like, what happened? What did we actually do? I want to be able to identify what success looks like. The cost, you know, in my mind, I went to the link that you emailed me, Marjorie. It's not active on the City of Oceanside website. It doesn't go to an existing PDF. The HUD utility / fair rental. And so I actually went to HUD. I typed in 92054. I went all the way down, and can you answer this to me? This 68,000 is referencing 12 beds. Is that considered a one bedroom? I didn't see any numbers breaking down 2 beds in one room.
I'm sorry, Councilmember Rodriguez, I did not send you a link to fair market rents. I'm not really sure.
I asked you about the rent and utilities. How did you come up with this amount? And you sent me a link to the City of Oceanside website referencing what the fair market rents, how you came up with that 68,000.
I don't recall doing that, but regardless, the fair market rents are set by HUD.
Right.
This is a little bit of a different situation because when we talk about fair market rents and what an individual can afford, we don't normally contemplate shared bedrooms. So those fair market rents have to do with the Section 8 program. It's completely separate from what we're doing here, although obviously we don't want to be paying more rent than what a two-bedroom apartment would be worth in Crown Heights neighborhood. Most of the costs associated with this program are obviously heavy overhead because there's going to have to be somebody 24 hours on duty. These are people that we're taking off the street, and sometimes they get taken advantage of, and we need to have a more healthy oversight of these units.
Right now, I just want to
But-
focus on the rents and how you came up with that. So how much per...
Let me defer to Mr. Angel on that.
Is he the one that gave you the numbers, or did you give him the numbers?
Oh, they gave us the proposal.
Okay, you gave the proposal. Okay, yes, if you can come up, sir.
If I could.
So how did you come up with those amounts? Because when I compare it to HUD for a one-bedroom or a two-bedroom or a three-bedroom, this is quadruple the amount of what HUD considers fair market value rent.
We came upon the calculation at 68,000 and change. I don't have the exact figure right with me right now, based upon the HUD determined fair market rent for 3 two-bedroom, 2-bath apartments.
They're one bath. They're one, on the tax rolls it's showing 19 units between Division and Grant, 2-bedroom, 1-bath units.
I believe they're 2-bedroom, 2-bath. I could be mistaken.
They're 1 bath.
But that's how we came upon the rent determination and also the utility allowance.
And the number of bathrooms wouldn't be taken into consideration for fair market rent.
But for a one-bedroom by HUD, what is the amount that HUD thinks is fair? Because we're putting 2 people per room, so we're having 4 beds under a 2-bedroom unit. So when I break it down, it's $1,400 per month per bed, or $2,800 per room, or $5,400 per 2-bedroom.
So I submitted our agency submitted the proposal for this project, and we looked at 3 2-bedroom apartments in the Crown Heights neighborhood that we have the opportunity to do any number of things with. I mentioned the VA funding provided veterans housing previously. It's been decreased. Those 3 units are available. One of the options we pursued was to simply make them available to families with a Section 8 voucher. And so we looked at what the reimbursement would be for those 3 2-bedroom apartments under that model, and it was the figure that we submitted for this proposal. So for us, it's the cost of providing these units for the city of Oceanside to use as bridge housing is the same as the cost it would be to provide for 3 families using a housing voucher. That's how we came upon that determination.
Okay, so the $68,000 is exactly what you would get as a housing voucher, is what you're saying. Okay. And then with the 19 units between Grant and Division, you currently already have somebody on site that's managing those grounds and keeping the tenants in line and is there as a resource. Is that correct?
We have staff on site in support of 60 veterans in the 15 units that are provided for our veteran residents, and we have 1 staff resident unit.
Got it.
And then we also have additional staff located at our veterans office providing supportive services. It's actually the reason why we're able to only include a 3/4 FTE, 3/4 full-time equivalent resident coordinator for a program that really requires 24/7 supervision, because we're able to leverage the presence of other staff and other programs. It's really a unique opportunity. If we were to replicate it in another neighborhood or another community, it would have a higher expense for us to operate.
Got it. So there's 1, maybe 2 staff on site that we're able to piggyback off of in what way you're describing. So we're paying 0.75 FTE to piggyback off of that on-site resource that already exists?
To provide the additional supervision that we believe will be necessary to support 12 additional individuals who are not there currently.
Got it.
That's the standard payment.
And that's the $94,000 cost.
That's part of the $94,000. Also included in that is a full-time housing specialist, housing navigator. So the $94,000 is the fully baked salary, benefits, costs for that 1.75 full-time equivalent staff.
Got it. So are we going to be getting, in essence, we're paying for like a new social worker to help with so are they going to fall under the umbrella of the HOT team? So now we're going to have a 3rd social worker that would need to report to the HOT team, or who keeps track of that? Who keeps that accountable?
Sure. So we'll manage the program. That individual, the additional housing specialist, will be focused entirely on supporting the 12 individuals to secure and move into permanent housing of their own. To expedite that, we estimate that we'll be able to get individuals into housing within 90 days. I believe we can actually do better than that. And of course, our commitment to this city, as it is to all of our partners, is to provide full and complete reporting on the outcomes of your investment and your partnership. Welcome site visits, welcome monitoring, welcome audits, all of that. We do this as your partner, as your hands and feet, as Pastor Tim said.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now on the issue of how long do I have left? Let's do it. Now on the issue of the funding. The funding, I really think we need to look for a different purse to pull this funding from. The funding set aside is Measure X funds that is unrestricted. We can really be creative with it in helping Oceanside families. I think that we really need to take a step back and pull these funds from a different pot. There is the Tasha money coming in. There's other resources. I really don't want to support taking Measure X taxpayer dollars on this, type of a program where there's funds we can get from other sources.
Councilmember Keim?
I want to just get more back to a macro level, and I think address the Measure X and the accountability for the money that we specifically went out and asked the voters for. We need to be held accountable for spending it properly. I think this first year, there's a little more latitude. And homelessness, as we know, is not there's not one silver bullet to get someone off the street and to that next level and improve their life. But we are trying hard. I think we're leading in the county. I hope to be a leader in the state. But as we use these Measure X funds, I think every year we go forward, we're going to improve. We're going to see what didn't work, what did work, adjust money around, and I think we'll get it right. Maybe the first year, maybe not as much, but I just think we need to take a hard look at the results next year, figure out if it worked, if it didn't work, and go from there.
Mayor Feller?
How many minutes do I have?
6 seconds.
Oh. So I'm in agreement that I am not a housing first advocate, and this is a housing first center that we're already dealing with. The thing that is it's kind of like the cows are out of the corral here, and Pastor Tim was referring to this is a good project for the purpose, but I think the money is the problem for me. But as I said, it's maybe already down the road a little bit. I would like to see if we can make this work, that this go into our next budget process, but allow this to go forward so that we can get a feel for what we have actually, what we're trying to accomplish here, and not be relying after this period of time, because that's like $5,000 a person for 90 days. It's hard to justify. That's about what I pay for rent for a house that I live in. So I think, I don't know what the other funds are that could be available for this project beyond this, but I don't like the fact that we're using Measure X funds for something, because we aren't constrained by the use. So in the future, this this doesn't come out of this pot if it's this type of ongoing cost. So, and I'm wondering, how can any of your houses be empty, any of your units be empty? Please.
The VA has nationally reduced funding for transitional housing, and they reduced our contract, the reimbursements they provide for us to be able to provide housing at the Grant and Division Street properties. So it's a nature of a reduction in federal funding.
Is this the first time in the past 10 years that it's been reduced like this?
It's happened in several steps. We also saw the loss entirely of our Escondido-based veterans transitional housing programs. It's part of a change in how these things are funded, unfortunately.
Okay. So if we can figure out a way to do this budget in the budget process, I will give it 1 year with this money, but I want the process to start right when we start the budget process for next year. And is that a possibility? Yeah.
Deputy Mayor Feller, Honorable Mayor, Council members, yes, it is. But I also want to remind you, the Measure X committee did approve $400,000 in this category with this type of project in mind. So it was approved. But we certainly could look into, and this is just for 1 year, we could look into an alternative funding source next fiscal year.
Well,
if that's the direction.
Because they didn't approve it, it doesn't mean we have to spend it either. So.
No.
We have a motion. Is there a second to that motion?
So that would be my substitute motion.
Well, I think this is only good for a year.
If he would like me to change the motion to say that this is for 1 year, and then that the second year, which would be through the budget process, will be staff looking at other funds, I'm fine to make that motion.
Well, this agreement is only for 1 year.
Yes.
This agreement's only 1 year.
1 year.
You say so many words, I'm not exactly sure what you just
Councilmember
said.
Fellow, I heard that you are fine for the first year, but you would like to see staff look at other funding for, if this works out to be a good program, that staff come back with other funding mechanism.
Starting the budget process at the appropriate time.
That would be my motion then, and that would be your second?
I would second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Motion approved, 4-1. Rodriguez, no.
If we can, we will go to item 16, which is approval and agreement with the Metropolitan Water District. And Carrie said she'll be brief. Hint, hint.
2 or 3 minutes?
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council members. Carrie Dale, Water Utilities Director, here to speak on item number 16. I'm going to be doing a joint presentation this evening with Lindsay Leahy, who is to my left. Tonight's item is to approve actions necessary to maintain eligibility for Metropolitan Water District funding, and includes a couple of items. It includes a 3-party agreement with the Metropolitan Water District, the Water Authority, as well as the city for local resource program funding, as well as several environmental actions which are detailed in the staff report and on these slides. The Local Resources Program is an incentive program currently offered through Metropolitan Water District, and it is currently active. We've been barred from applying for this previously due to lawsuits between Metropolitan and the Water Authority. It provides a financial incentive and payment to develop local water resources It reduces demand for imported water, improves reliability for the region, which in turn reduces the need to transport or store that water in the metropolitan service area in Southern California. It's funded through a portion of the rate that Metropolitan charges to the Water Authority. Projects that are eligible include those shown here in the slide. And incentives are provided on a per acre foot basis to buy down the cost of water, to make it more affordable. And an acre foot, for those of you that aren't in the water business, there's about 3 acre feet in 1 million gallons of water. Retail agencies like the City of Oceanside are required to submit a detailed application through the Water Authority that is then reviewed by Metropolitan. It also includes a site visit and inspection, a Q&A session with all of those parties, and then we go to execute the agreement. The agreement's driven by Council's goal to develop 50% local water supplies by 2030. We do have 2 projects that are ready to go to construction, and those are Pure Water Oceanside and the recycled water system, just the lower portion of the system. Those 2 projects will add 6,000 acre feet per year to the local supply total, bringing the local supply to 33% once implemented, and that time frame is about 2023. We have history with this program. We had previously entered into 2 other incentive agreements for the Mission Basin Desalter Facility and for the San Luis Rey Water Reclamation Facility. Both are no longer active, and the total incentive that was paid to the city over the life of those agreements was a little over $8 million. There are several funding options for the agreement. Shown here, staff is recommending option 2, and over the 15-year term of the agreement, the incentive paid to the city would be $43 million. And I know that looks very exciting. It's a very large number, but we have programmed that into our financial long-term projections, so it is included in the cost of water moving forward. I'm going to turn the presentation over to Lindsay Leahy, who will be talking about the environmental actions.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Council. Part of the agreement requires that we have considered, or Council considers, all environmental documents in order to fully execute the agreement with Metropolitan. That's why we've included the environmental portion in this item. A little background, and I'll begin with the Recycled Water Program. We are a member of the North San Diego Water Reuse Coalition. It consists of 9 member agencies in the North County area. And as a coalition, we developed a programmatic environmental impact report, which looked at all of our recycled water programs for all agencies. That was adopted in 2016. Shortly thereafter, there was an addendum to that item, which included a statement that identified Metropolitan Local Resources Programming as a potential funding source for the recycled water programs. This is a requirement by Metropolitan in order to be eligible for their funding. Later, there was a second addendum to that PEIR that took a closer look at the recycled water treatment plant expansion that the City of Oceanside is completing currently. Later, just a year ago in 2018, on the Pure Water item, Planning Commission considered and certified an initial study and mitigative negative declaration for the Pure Water program. What's on this item for tonight is we are asking Council to consider the 3rd addendum to the Programmatic Environmental Impact Report for the Recycled Water Project. This addresses the minor changes to the specific pipeline alignments that we have now identified. The original programmatic EIR looks at the big picture. Since we've entered design, we know exactly where we want to put this pipeline, the tanks, and the pump stations. Through that process, we have identified that there are no additional impacts that other than what have been identified in the original document. For the Pure Water program, We are proposing an addendum to the ISMND, and what that includes is, again, the statement for Metropolitan identifying the local resources program funding as a potential funding source for this program. That is the only change in the Pure Water addendum, and it will, again, keep us eligible for that funding. And to summarize, again, we are asking or requesting that we approve an agreement with Metropolitan for the local resources program, approve or certify the 2 addenda, and allow us to file a notice of determination. And we are available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Navarro, do we have any speakers? Councilmember Sanchez?
Thank you, and I appreciate the presentation that I got from staff on this. I understand that we were banned from seeking these funds from this special program because of the ongoing lawsuit. So we were banned from not being able to pursue this type of funding assistance. So I want to thank staff for checking back, and now that the lawsuit looks like it's winding down, and so we do qualify, and this is a big help in terms of meeting our goal of 50%. This is going to get us to 33%, and that's pretty exciting for the citizens of Oceanside. So I'm going to go ahead and move approval, and again, thank you.
Second.
Deputy Mayor Feller?
Carrie, I think, didn't you say that we were prevented from doing this for 2 years, because of the 2 lawsuits?
Yeah.
Deputy Mayor.
Oh, I thought I was hearing an echo. Never mind.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0.
At this time, we'll go to our 6 o'clock public hearing item, which is approval and a First Amendment to the city's contract with Solid Waste Services. And we will open the public hearing and start with disclosures.
Staff and the contractor?
Staff, the contractor, and community.
Staff, contractor, and several business owners.
Staff.
Staff and the contractor.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have spoken to the contractor as well.
Kari, you're up. She didn't catch it. I wouldn't have done it that way.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council. My name is Colleen Foster. I'm the City of Oceanside's Environmental Officer with the Water Utilities Department. Staff is recommending that City Council approve an amendment to the city's current solid waste franchise agreement to provide additional commercial organic services as mandated by state law for the remaining term of the agreement, and to further introduce an ordinance amending sections 13.1 and 1316 of the City Code to modify solid waste disposal and recycling requirements for food waste, and to further adopt a resolution establishing new residential and commercial solid waste user rates and commercial organics user rates, and direct staff to implement the user rates and franchise provider charges and fees. The city currently contracts with Waste Management of California for solid waste, recycling, and green waste services to the city. The current contract, which was approved by Council October 20th of 2010, established services and rates for both residential and commercial collection and expires on December 31st, 2023. In 2018, staff presented an organics feasibility to City Council. At that meeting, City Council voted 5-0 to direct staff to implement the recommendations of that study and to negotiate an interim commercial food waste program with Waste Management, for Waste Management to send the food waste materials to CORE, to Orange, and to LA San, and to direct staff to work towards residential solutions locally in the long term. In addition to the feasibility study and Council's recommendations, several state mandates have driven and mandated organics diversion. In particular, in AB 1826, passed in 2014 and in effect in 2016, requires businesses generating 4 cubic yards or more of solid waste a week to subscribe to organics recycling service, and multifamily dwellings with 5 or more units to subscribe to green waste service or haul green waste to a composter. While the city is not fully compliant with AB 1826, the state has delayed enforcement actions since the city has moved to implement an organic service by the negotiation of the solid waste franchise agreement. Failure to successfully start and implement a commercial organics recycling program would result in full non-compliance. Failure to meet these regulatory requirements can result in fines to the city of up to $10,000 per day. Most recently, the state requested in writing that the city formally submit a compliance action plan for commercial organics recycling services no later than the November 30th, 2019, to avoid enforcement actions by the state. The proposed contract amendment provides services that will allow compliance. Failure to implement those services will result in non-compliance. In addition to AB 1826, the state passed SB 1383 in 2016. This law requires jurisdictions to provide organics recycling services to nearly all residents and businesses by no later than January 1st of 2022. The first phase of SB 1383 requires significant planning prior to 2022 to become effective at that time. As part of the organics feasibility study, staff, in partnership with HF&H and Waste Management, conducted a waste characterization study of organics waste stream. Through that study, we found that 57% of our waste stream currently in landfill carts is actually organics materials, and those materials can be diverted. 51% is generated by the commercial sector. As a result, through the implementation of a commercial organics recycling program that we're proposing today, the City of Oceanside will be able to better achieve our zero waste goals. We are currently at a 68% recycling rate. We have a goal of 75 to 90% recycling. This commercial organics recycling program will allow us to hit an 80% or more recycling rate. The proposed organics collection system for commercial customers will allow for the collection of pre- and post-collection food waste. So essentially, what food waste is created in the kitchen can be collected for recycling, and also what is scraped off the plates. In addition to the food waste, food soiled paper would be allowable through the commercial organics recycling program. The proposed contract amendment provides for the collection, transportation, and processing of organic waste generated by the city's 1,700 commercial customers in compliance with California mandates. Once collected from customers, organic material will be transported to and processed at Waste Management's core facility in Orange, California. Their materials will be liquefied and then transported to LA San for use as a fuel supplement to wastewater digesters. This out-of-county processing strategy is short-term, as the city ensured that the contract amendment includes language that maintains the city's right of direction of materials to local infrastructure as it becomes available or developed. Please note, however, despite trucking out of county, the net environmental benefits of the proposed processing approach are greater than any of the other options explored in the organics feasibility study, essentially due to the net energy capture through the core LA San system. In addition, the contract amendment provides significant and technical assistance for commercial customers. To support participation in the program, commercial customers will receive technical assistance prior to the start of new services to inform them of the city's program. They will be provided training and will be assisted with the right sizing of their service levels to help mitigate or even save money in some situations for the organics recycling program. The technical assistance program has been developed to be in compliance with both AB 1826 and SB 1383. Both of these mandates will significantly impact staffing and operational resources, as they both require extensive daily monitoring of generators, outreach, technical support, enforcement, and reporting. SB 1383 alone in particular has 40 new programmatic requirements that will directly impact Oceanside over the next 2 years. The following is our implementation timeline summarizing the process for approving and implementing the amendment to the City Solid Waste Services Agreement. After Council approves the contract amendment, we expect the new contract and new rates to go into effect on January 1st, 2020. Then we plan on taking a phased service implementation approach for commercial customers over the next 4 months, with a focus on larger generators and proactive account signups in the beginning. Phase 1, beginning January 2020, will include site visits, best sizing, right sizing of organics, the sign up of commercial customers, and the provision of outreach materials. Phase 2, which begins in March and May, will include additional site visits, additional direct technical assistance, and will include the delivery of carts and bins. All commercial customers will be provided minimum organics recycling services no later than the first week of May. Under the current contract, a CPI increase occurs every year, typically effective July 1st at the beginning of the fiscal year. To avoid a rate impact that would occur twice in 1 year, once during the commercial organics implementation on January 1st and again on July 1st, we recommend pulling forward the July 2020 CPI increase so that customers only see their rates go up once during the 2020 year. As such, the 1.49% accounts for the CPI pull forward increase. The next CPI increase would not occur until July of 2021. This gives a total residential increase of 5.08% and a total commercial increase of 11.59%. A residential customer rate increase is recommended at 3.59% in order to apportion some of the cost of city programs associated with organics diversion and organics mandates. Some of the costs associated with composting classes, a compost siting study currently underway, workshops to divert organics, and other city-administered programs focused on organics. The solid waste utility has historically absorbed the cost of these activities, which have allowed the city to work towards compliance with state mandates. Staff will need to negotiate separate residential organics collection services with waste management to be effective in early 2020, which is the implementation date of SB 1383. Residential rates, existing residential rates, a standard service is $19.20. The proposed amendment rate increase will increase that rate by just under $1. The following is a sample of commercial organics rates available to customers January 2020. The organics rates have been set at 75% of the trash rate in order to incentivize organics recycling over landfilling. Container options for customers will include carts, 2-yard bins, and 10-yard boxes for larger generators. This rate system is very similar to how we implemented mandatory recycling in 2014. Smaller businesses currently subscribe to what we call commercial can or commercial bundled cart service. Essentially today, their service rate includes one 96-gallon trash and one 96-gallon recycling cart. As part of the new organics recycling program, those customers will receive an additional third cart, an organics food waste recycling cart, at a cost of $44.86. So for an additional $4, those smaller businesses will be able to participate in the program and will be in compliant with state law for organics recycling services. Again, this was similar to how we did it for recycling in 2014. The following slide is an animation that I'm going to show you of the process of right sizing. A major aspect of our outreach and technical assistance will be working with businesses to take a look at their existing services and to find greater opportunity for recycling, for decreases in trash services, to enable an opportunity for organics recycling. In the right sizing example we have here, you have a business that has trash service currently going at 4 yards 4 times a week, and then recycling service 3 yards 2 times a week. Their current rate would be $581 a month. If this customer chooses not to take advantage of the technical assistance or not to right size or change their existing services, and to only utilize the minimum required organics recycling services, their rate would increase to $682. If the customer chooses to work with our technical assistance team, take advantage of the right sizing of services, and to essentially move the organics material that exists in their landfill bin today and move it into an organics food waste bin, there's greater opportunity for cost savings. So in this right sizing example, we work with the business to reduce their landfill service to 2 times a week, move the organics materials that used to be in that landfill bin to an appropriate 2-yard food waste bin 2 times a week, and to maintain recycling at its existing level. In this scenario, we have opportunity to actually find cost savings of a little over $20 with the business coming into full compliance for organics recycling. The next example is a typical downtown restaurant that may exist today. They have a 4-yard trash going 6 times a week and a 4-yard recycling going 1 time a week. Again, if they only subscribe to minimum service and do not right size their services, their rate would essentially increase. Taking advantage of the right sizing opportunities can help mitigate that increase. So essentially reducing that landfill service and even looking at opportunity to increase recycling. So in this scenario, they are indeed seeing cost savings again because they went ahead and increased recycling and added the organic service. The majority of customers will significantly benefit from this right sizing example. For customers that don't see a decrease in cost of service, at minimum, the right sizing assistance will help mitigate the impact of the rate increases. So in this example, you have a customer that has a significant amount of trash, minor amount of recycling. This customer most likely doesn't have a lot of employees, so maybe has minimal food waste at their facility. This type of customer subscribing to 1 time a week with the cart will indeed see a rate increase. If we do right sizing with them, even if we don't find a lot of opportunity for organics, because there's not a lot of employees, just by increasing the recycling and taking a look at the trash, we can mitigate that rate increase. So it goes from $329 to $364. And for some reason, the organics bin's not floating out. So essentially, the reason for showing you these examples is to demonstrate that we've established rates that incentivize organics recycling and recycling over landfilling, and we've provided a cost benefit to that rate scenario. Commercial and residential solid waste recycling and organics rates will result in approximately $21 million in revenue and a projected $21 million in additional expenses for the solid waste and recycling administration budget. The proposed contract amendment also includes an SB 1383 organics fee, as well as includes enhanced city services. The SB 1383 fee will be paid to the city by Waste Management annually. It's a total of $750,000 a year. This fee will fund significant additional city cost for complying with existing state mandates, including SB 1383. The fee will go towards the city's SB 1383 implementation plan, our compost siting study, and Organics to Energy master plan, and it will also go towards enhanced programming for our residential customers, including but not limited to backyard subsidized compost bin programs, workshops, cooking classes, and other opportunities of public outreach and education. Additionally, the contract amendment provides for increased city service allowance. So we will be bringing organics recycling services to all 32 city facilities as required by state law, and we'll also be providing enhanced litter abatement through can servicing. We'll be increasing can services. Cans that currently are east of the 5 only get service 1 day a week. This contract amendment will provide for servicing to 2 days a week. This concludes staff presentation with a recommendation to approve the amendment to provide additional organic services and to introduce the ordinance and resolution. Just to please note, we do have several people here in the audience available for any questions. With Waste Management, we have Doug Corcoran, Ken Ryan, Cesar Mariscal, Lori Summers, and Daniel Butler. They're a range of the Southern California Management and Public Sector team. They're available for any questions from Waste Management directly. We also have with us from the state, Cal Recycle, Ashley Yee, a senior environmental scientist who has been working with the SB 1383 regulation, and then also Roberta Goldenpenny, another environmental scientist that's our city's annual regulation compliance liaison. I will be available at the dais for any questions. Thank you.
We have a speaker slip from Arlene Hammerschmidt.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm a composter. I don't put this kind of stuff in the city system. Not in my garbage disposal, not in my green waste bin that's hardly ever used. So my questions are, how is the residential rate increase figured? Because residents are paying for a commercial service. And yet there are going to be workshops to increase backyard composting, which some of us already do. This is a limited income person, and paying for a service that I don't use doesn't make a lot of sense to me personally when I'm, even the workshops don't help me. I noticed that there's been a great deal of interest in trying to reduce the cost to commercial by counseling on getting the right size container. This is a no size container right here in front of you. And there are others of us who are already ahead of this curve in this city. What percent of commercial food waste comes from tourists, serving tourists, as compared to the percent that comes from serving residential customers? I think that percentage should equate the amount of increase that residents see on our bill. So, where did the calculations come? Let's think about the residents. Let's be considerate of those of us who are ahead of the curve on this thing. And let's be fair. This doesn't quite seem fair. It's a great idea. I love that commercial composting happening. I love it. It's just, a broader look would be appreciated. Thank you. I hope it can answer my questions.
Everybody, I've tried to speak with you before. I would like to address this issue on recycling. When you asked me to reduce the water, I took out the grass and went with turf replacement. I have a composting bin. I also dig holes and put everything in there. And yet my rates are going up. I don't put my recycle bin out very often because there's not much in. We chop up the trees, the trimmings, and it goes into mulch. So cost saving, you send me a bill every month. You do not offer senior services, senior discounts as other utilities do. Yet you put an envelope for me to send back a bill, which the same bill says do not pay. You're auto-deducted. Those envelopes are not cheap. why don't you start saving money by not doing things you don't need to do? Why do you not offer a discount to disabled or poorer residents? I've owned my home in Oceanside since 1991. I've only seen expenses increase. I get no recognition for using less water. I put in a solar system, so I have solar panels. I've been as incredibly compliant with everything you ask me to do, and I get punished by increases financially, whether it's utilities, water. If I only have one bin collected in a month, maybe two, why am I paying as much as I'm paying for bins you're not collecting? I would love to convert my home water, as they've done in some of Arizona, to harvest rainwater. I do berms. I do mulching. I use Agra services. Found the last delivery of mulch was full of plastic, and I didn't pay for the cheap one. So how are you helping me to be a good resident? When I comply, I get punished. Thank you.
Before I begin, could staff respond to the questions? There were two people who asked questions.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and Council. Excellent questions. Before we begin to answer it, one thing I failed to do, I'd like to also introduce and invite up here with us our consultant HF&H, Rob Hilton, is with us today, and he was instrumental in helping us develop a rate system for this program, and he was instrumental through the negotiations.
Could you also introduce the representative from Cal Recycle?
Yes, our representatives for Cal Recycle we have here, Ashley Yee, and then also Roberta Rodriguez. So they are also in the audience right back there, and they will come up
there
if
you are.
we have
Okay,
any
thank you.
questions. So, residents in particular, so, and Rob, I'm going to defer to him to answer some of the rate structuring, but in particular, we will be providing programming to the residential customers. We'll continue to provide that. Some of these funds will go towards that. In regards to SB 1383, a significant amount of work, studies, and analysis still needs to happen and be funded to essentially develop a program to be in place by 2022. So that is one of the major reasons why we couldn't just pass the buck essentially to commercial customers. SB 1383 regulates organics diversion, requires programming and staffing for both commercial customers and residential customers. So that's essentially the reasoning behind that rate adjustment. I will defer to Rob to speak briefly in regards to generation of materials and rate structuring.
Thank you. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the council. One of the questions that came up is, how is this being apportioned to the residential sector, and what was the logic behind that? So the residential sector is getting approximately $400,000 worth of the total, which is a $2.6 million increase overall in the revenue for the system. So it's a relatively small share, and their piece includes a little less than half of the 1383 fee, because most of the work that's remaining to be done on 1383 is in the residential sector once this program's implemented. And then a portion of the additional city can services that are being expanded, particularly those that are in the more residential areas. We tried to apportion the downtown service more towards the commercial sector. So that was the logic in the dollars there. In terms of the other aspect of this is that the community splits the waste generation about 50-50. Residents generate about 49% and businesses about 51%. And so as we were looking at how to split that 1383 fee portion of this, we used that as a bit of guidance as well for that half and half.
Okay, well, I heard the question, what happens to the person who generates zero organic waste? That was the question I heard. At residential,
I apologize.
yeah.
Councilmember Sanchez, all commercial customers will receive minimal organic services. And essentially, every customer, even with minimal employees, do have organics materials. We're not just talking about food waste. We are talking about food, soiled paper. We're talking about pizza boxes, paper towels, things of those natures. So all commercial customers will receive the minimum service levels. In particular, for residential customers, we do provide some opportunities to have the standardized rate, which is the smaller trash cart. That system in particular is for residents who have done a great job in recycling and are not producing a lot of landfill materials, and essentially they get a rate reduction because of that.
And the question about what if you do your own composting, because this is not a composting program. This is organics recycling that has different layers to it. The last step being our goal of food to energy, right? Our own infrastructure for that. So the question was, well, what if I do all composting? And I guess what she's also saying, and she doesn't produce any food related items that are somehow contaminated by food.
Proposed contract amendment is only providing commercial organics recycling services. As we develop a residential organics recycling program, we can definitely take opportunities in consideration for those types of residents that are already doing home composting. I can't guarantee a full exemption. The full exemption does not exist per the laws, but we can look into opportunities to definitely have rate savings or other types of benefits.
Okay. Thank you for answering those questions. I want to start by thanking staff for basically taking the lead on this in the county, I would say. On our path, on our road to zero waste, I want to just really congratulate staff. We already had a green waste recycling program, and it's like that was like kind of, okay, we have this, where can we go from here? And to be able to adopt a zero waste resolution before anybody else did it in the county, I just want to say thank you. And also thank past councils for making that happen. I also want to say thank you to Waste Management. At the last time we negotiated, it was the same time we were talking about zero waste. They both came together. We basically agreed to negotiate with Waste Management on a new waste hauler contract. And during that negotiations, we said, hey, we want to do zero waste as well. Can you adopt this into the contract? And I want to say that Waste Management, you took the challenge. Of course, we couldn't dream of everything that we would need to have in that contract. Certainly not where the state was going to go in terms of mandating organics recycling. But we're at this stage because of this really great partnership, and I thank you. And I want to say also to the public, if we did not have our residents, we had two speakers who were basically committed to this, but we have public all over, including and especially our youth. The Oceanside Unified School District and some schools took this very seriously, went out and said, we're going to produce zero waste, and we're going to get there very quickly. And I want to thank all the teachers that have taken this challenge and said, we can make this happen. And all the kids that remind us what we're supposed to be doing, like when I had to remember to put my seatbelt on, little kid, my nephews and niece telling me, Thea, you haven't put your seatbelt on. With the kids telling us how critical these things are, it's been a fantastic partnership. So I want to say also to our representatives here from Cal Recycle, thank you for being here. The last time we had representatives from Cal Recycle, we were advised that there probably wouldn't be a whole lot of leeway in terms of lack of compliance or non-compliance. You also, in fact, said substantial compliance would not be sufficient and that there would be substantial fines. So I want to say that I know that we have been moving forward, and I want to thank you for giving us the leeway to continue on this road, because I want to say our community is definitely moving forward, and so don't get even close to those fines for us, okay? Thank you. This is a great program. Yes, it is mandatory, but it is also something that our community is embracing. And we will get to our residential program later. First, it's the commercial. And I want to say I support our businesses. I know that we need to get there. I hope that we get there together, holding hands and saying, hey, this is a great thing for Oceanside. I want to go ahead and approve the amendment, introduce the ordinance, adopt the resolution, and provide direction to staff. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to clarify that this is for all commercial accounts. So law offices, CPA firms, real estate firms, tire shops, they are all going to be getting and be required to have the organics recycling.
Honorable Mayor and council members, yes.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Feller?
Thank you. At the end of your presentation, did you say this will pay for cooking classes?
Honorable Councilmember Feller, as part of the state mandates as well as our zero waste goals, it does require food recovery and food reduction education and programming to be provided to generators. So as part of our Green Oceanside Kitchen program, we are going to be working with the community to provide education on how to reduce food waste, whether it's in a commercial kitchen or a residential kitchen, and also how to process it to ensure longevity, storage tips, and to provide opportunity for food rescue to local feeding agencies.
I understand that.
So cooking classes is one of the examples.
That was a pretty big stretch for me, and from coming from the trash industry. I just want people to be aware that there will be an increased number of dumpsters, carts in the alleys, anywhere there's a commercial business, and I'm satisfied with the answers you gave about residential. That I think that I would stress the training and the rollout. The technical assistance, I would stress that in all your contact, because most people are just, this could be a kicking and screaming one. So I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Got to title the ordinance, Mayor.
Oh.
This is the introduction of an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Oceanside, amending Chapter 13 of the Oceanside City Code by the amendment of Sections 13.1 and 13.16 to modify solid waste disposal and recycling requirements for food waste.
Please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0.
Do we have anybody on 19 oral communications?
We currently have 5 speakers. Our first speaker is Nick Ritchie, to be followed by Cindy Davenport, to be followed by Roger Davenport.
Good evening, Council. My name is Nick Ritchie. I live at 133 Sherry Lane. As staff continues in preparing the report to you on the bond market for the El Corazon Aquatic Center, I and many others see this funding tool as unwise and even harmful. To my knowledge, this is the only funding source the city has researched. Probably $40 million, including interest for the next 30 years. And of course, the question I don't have the answer to, but have you researched privatization or any other funding formula outside of bonds? Or are we just inexorably moving towards a bond vote? Additionally, it appears as though there doesn't exist a plan for the unfunded liability of monthly maintenance. Also a question, will the employees of the center be full-time with health benefits and PERS contributions? Again, this is a want, not a need. The benefits are to a few, not the greater population. Now, I'm extremely biased in what I see as the most important need to the future of Oceanside. We enjoy a $300 million a year tourist industry. Our biggest attraction are 3.7 miles of beach. Yet this year, many tourists, after visiting Oceanside, have called city offices, Chamber of Commerce, and Visit Oceanside, stating their displeasure with the lack of sand. Many of them stating they will not return to Oceanside for that very reason. Oceanside is nearly built out. The council wanted this to be a destination place, but now some people are crossing Oceanside off its list. This is a red flag warning. Despite the efforts of the city, Representative Levin, and Senator Harris, the Army Corps appears to have no interest in finishing the study nor increase sand replenishment. How long can the city wait to address this? Will the city need other funding sources to find a solution? I simply am saying this: if we commit ourselves to these bonds, we effectively, for 30 years, will not be in a place to borrow bond money for anything else in the future. I urge you to find other funding sources for El Corazon Aquatic Center. Thank you.
Cindy Davenport, to be followed by Roger Davenport, to be followed by Dirk Ackerma.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council members. I'm Cindy Davenport, 541 Crouch Street, and have been living here since 2008. And I hope you all were really impressed by the large number of people participating in the climate strike last Friday. And in particular, here in Oceanside, we had about 150 people, young and old, on the corner of Coast Highway and Mission, and it was a really great event. So a lot of people are concerned about this climate crisis. And I also want to thank the City Council for voting and approving our own climate action plan on May 8th earlier this year. And we would like to see some action on this climate action plan. So as we saw through the World Meteorological Organization report this week at the United Nations, the effects of climate change are accelerating. And the rise in temperature, the rate has been increasing. So 1 degree Celsius every 153 years. So in other words, when the Industrial Revolution began, our temperatures started rising, but it did rise pretty slowly. It took 153 years to get to a rise of 1 degree Celsius. But now, since 2011, it's 1 degree Celsius every 20 years. And it looks like it's going to be accelerating even faster. We here in Oceanside are certainly concerned about sea level rise. Well, that rate is rising as well. As you can see, 3.2 millimeters per year. And it's increasing. So up to 5 millimeters per year now. Our carbon dioxide emissions are increasing, 20% increase compared to the previous 5 years. And in addition to carbon dioxide, there's a lot of pollutants in the air, and we've seen dramatic increases in the rate of asthma among our young people. So we need a call to action, and a professor of meteorology at the University of Reading, so a scientist, in other words, says climate change due to us is accelerating and on a very dangerous course. We should listen to the loud cry coming from the school children. This is an emergency, one for action in both rapidly reducing our greenhouse gases.
Towards zero and adapting to inevitable changes in the climate. Next. Other people also at the WMO said that to stop a temperature increase of more than 2 degrees C above pre-industrial levels, we need to triple our level of ambition. If we want to hold it down to 1.5 degrees, we need to multiply them by 5. So this is no longer a case of being able to do it with business as usual. I think probably, we went wild there. probably one of the best speakers on this. I hope everybody heard this speech by the young lady from Greta Thunberg from Sweden. Sweden? Yeah, Sweden. At the UN. I'm not going to read this one, but she ended with the call that right here, right now is where we draw the line. The world is waking up and change is coming, whether you like it or not. So it's a very, very strong call to action. So we remind everyone that we did pass the cap earlier this year, and there were some specific actions. So table 17 back on page 4-7 in the cap was a summary of all of the actions, the measures to be taken, and I've circled one of them, but let me start with the first one. So specifically, Community Choice Energy supports Measure E1. It's the most effective approach we have to reduce electricity-related greenhouse gas emissions in Oceanside. Right now, JPAs are forming, both in the North County and the City of San Diego. Our best fit is probably with the North County one, but the other is also an option. And they're planning for launches in January of 2021. And the question is, why should we wait to get 2% plus savings on our rates, more renewables, more local control and projects, and fewer emissions? Basically, none of these CCEs in California have failed like everybody's worried about. None of them have lost money. They've all done really well, and they've helped people get towards 100% solar. And income from such a program would support staffing that could be used to implement other CAP actions. Other suggested ideas are the solar PV promotion ordinance. This is one that was circled on the map on the thing, and it's the only low-level effort, high reduction potential measure in the cap. So we probably, maybe you need to hire contractors to help formulate this, but we need to get these ordinances in place. And we'd also push for all electric homes, all electrification of homes and businesses, and you can see the other ones there about transportation. So thank you.
Dirk Acima, to be followed by Teresa Masters.
Good evening, City Council. Dirk Acima, 30-year resident. I'm here to talk to you briefly about the Aquatic Center that's going to come up for vote in a couple of weeks. It seems to me that the city should look at forging a private public partnership with an operator that is in the business and that can make this aquatic center a viable, successful enterprise. I look at the agreement that the city struck with SoCal Sports to create the soccer facility up there in El Corazon. I think that's a model example of what private-public partnership can do. I just shudder to think what would happen if the city went ahead and did that by themselves and what type of situation would have existed then. You know, could the city really attract the business that SoCal has done there on a public incentive basis? Councilman Rodriguez posted earlier this week a financing plan that would be completely different than the bond issue that the city is currently considering, that would encumber the city to probably $40 million over 30 years. I think I got to give them very credit for being very creative with this financing proposal. On that Oceanside Votes Facebook account that he posted it, I posted a plan where I proposed that the city strike a deal with Zephyr Development or perhaps some other company and actually give the land and the set of plans that we have paid so dearly for, give it to them for a period of 20 years and have them operate the pool on a private incentive basis. And then after 20 years, then the city can take the property back after $1 a month, or I should say $1 a year lease, and then put it out for bid and eventually make some money. I just think that the Aquatic Center will be much more viable and will operate much more efficiently under a private ownership. And if Zephyr did do it, they would have some economies with their proposed wave pool and then the Aquatic Center. So I think that's an opportunity that the city should look at before encumbering themselves for a large debt offering. Thank you so much. 17 seconds to go.
I've already spoken with you, so you can eliminate me from this fight.
Thank you. Are there any council member items? Deputy Mayor Feller? Then with not, then we'll go to item 20, which is the, Mr. Mullen?
This is the, item 20 is the adoption of an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Oceanside, adding Article 5 to Chapter 15 of the Oceanside City Code and amending Section 31.42 to regulate to regulate and license sidewalk vending pursuant to California Senate Bill 946.
Deputy Mayor Feller?
So I did want to make a comment. We all received something from Scott at the chamber, much echoing what I said last time we approved this. We have to have teeth in our bite on the because this seriously, if it takes off, it could really seriously affect brick and mortar. And you know, I sacrificed all my life for brick and mortar type businesses, and life is not always fair, but this is this is a gift to people, and they should not abuse it. Anyway, I'll move approval.
Councilmember Sanchez?
Move adoption.
I already did.
Second. Councilmember Keim?
It's okay.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Motion approved 4-0 with Councilmember Rodriguez abstaining.
Then we'll adjourn to our next meeting at 3:30 on Wednesday, October 9th.